In this video, I want to give a side-by-side comparison on different evolutionary instincts and their correspondence to scrolling, doom scrolling as it were. Now, the reason for this is to sort of bring to your conscious awareness all that's sort of going on psychologically when you are doom scrolling. Just some food for thought. Speaking of food, I'm going to talk about the dopamine anticipation loop. So for context, if humans roughly emerged 300,000 years ago, most of that evolution has been in the hunter-gatherer phase of humanity. So most of our evolution is coming from when we were hunter-gatherers, which means you weren't staying in one place for very long. Some people were hunting food and other people were gathering berries or whatnot, food. So the dopamine anticipation loop is basically our ancestors needed motivation to explore uncertain environments, to hunt, gather, and discover new food sources. So dopamine's job wasn't to make us happy, it's to make it sort of the foraging drug. And scrolling exploits that same curiosity because each swipe mimics foraging for a new type of food or discovering a new type of berry. And instead of nutrition, we're searching for novelty or information. Anticipation of the next clip keeps us engaged long after its satisfaction disappeared. So now ancient foraging is replaced by digital grazing, as it were. Operant conditioning. Now, operant conditioning is simply the psychological method of learning that we engage in every day, which is a behavior followed by either a reward or a punishment. A behavior that is followed by a reward or punishment, which is pretty much every behavior, is either encouraged or discouraged. So, classic example, let's say you give your child a cookie every time he unloads the dishwasher. That behavior is now encouraged because he wants the reward, and so he's more likely to do that behavior. So with scrolling, of course, the movement is moving your finger and clicking on the social media app, and the reward is receiving a brand new video. And something interesting about operant conditioning is that the variable reward schedule, which is a specific type of schedule, is more obsessive than a normal schedule. And the reason for this, first of all, what is a variable reward schedule? A variable reward is when you don't know if you're going to get something good or not so good. So, for example, when you're hunting, maybe you try to set up a trap and it fails, but maybe you succeed. So sometimes you succeed, sometimes you don't succeed. It's a variable reward. Not every tree is going to bear fruit. And so evolution needed a way for people to persist through this uncertainty. So that's why variable rewards are so addictive. And that's the same concept of slot machines, by the way. People sometimes win, sometimes don't win, and they're very encouraged to continue when that is the case. The modern hijack for this, of course, is scrolling, where sometimes you receive a good video, sometimes it's mediocre, and that variableness really encourages you. The other aspect of this operant conditioning is the short timetables. Habits form based on repetition. It's not necessarily time spent. And since you're doing a high volume of repetitions while scrolling, you're actually encouraging the behavior a lot because each video may only take 10 seconds or even less. And sometimes you come across a video and you scroll past it instantly, right? So that's sort of operant condition. Now, let's talk about prefrontal cortex fatigue, loss of executive control. So the prefrontal cortex is in charge of decision making, executive control, making your decision in the world. However, deep focus and decision making actually require a lot of effort, and the brain evolved to conserve energy. So when it interprets an environment as safe, then it's going to try to turn on autopilot and stop thinking so much. So while scrolling, the brain interprets the environment as low risk, low effort, so it defaults to autopilot. The result, you stay online for hours, and your brain's kind of on energy saving mode. The next thing is attention fragmentation. So humans evolved to rapidly shift their attention because they're trying to detect threats or opportunities, right? Maybe you're searching out for prey or you're searching for predators. So your brain has a sort of scanning reflex. Now, the modern hijack of this is, of course, short-term content is constantly hijacking that scanning reflex because each new clip represents a potential threat or opportunity, releasing micro alerts of attention over time your neural wiring favors breadth over depth, which is why it's sort of the common thing of saying most people's attention is shorter than a goldfish, because that we've had to sort of adapt our brains. And this is an evolution. This is sort of short-term adaptation to focus less. So sleep disruption is the next thing I'm going to talk about. So this is an easy one. Of course, humans evolved without electricity or light, so when there was light, it was daytime, you're supposed to be awake. When it's night, you're supposed to be asleep. And the result of this is that nighttime, or rather the lack of light, encourages the production of melatonin. This is also in accordance with your circadian rhythm. And when you look at your phone at night, you are looking at blue light emitted from your phone, which is delaying the production of melatonin, delaying and making less, decreasing the secretion of melatonin. And thus, that's why you might feel that when you're scrolling in bed, you're able to stay up longer than if you put your phone away. If you put your phone away, sleep might overtake you sooner than if you look at your phone. So this is causing sleep disruption. Sleep disruption can make your motivation go down, your overall quality of life go down, which makes stopping yourself from scrolling the next night harder. So it's a vicious cycle. The next thing I'll talk about is time perception collapse. Now, in unpredictable environments, humans evolved a flexible time sense. Time sped up during threats and slowed down during rest. This allowed rapid response. So of course, rest might feel slower than threat time. However, it's not like rest time has gone away. Of course, we're always going to have rest time. But the additional problem with scrolling is that you're going by videos so fast that your brain doesn't have time to encode each one, which is why you may have a sort of scrolling amnesia, as it were. You may have trouble remembering what videos you scroll by. I mean, just think back to your last scrolling session. Do you remember any videos you watched? Maybe a few, but not all of them. And in addition to that, because your brain is not encoding that many memories, it's actually perceiving less time having passed, because time perception is heavily correlated with how many memories you have of that time period. So for example, if you've ever been a kid, of course you have, if you ever went to a summer camp as a kid and you had a really fun time, I can remember a few examples in my history. If you ever had a really fun time and you're making new friends, having lots of new experiences, your perception of time may actually increase. You may think, wait, that was only a week? That felt like a month. Or maybe you met someone that day and at the end of the day, you're, wait, I met you earlier today? That felt like a week ago. You know, like this is the time perception in action. Because you have more memories, your time perception expands. And the converse of that, when you're scrolling and you're not encoding a lot of those memories, your time perception decreases. So this is sort of a big picture, you know, psychological overview of what's happening when you're scrolling. And the underlying reason scrolling is harming us is because we're running on evolutionary code, as it were, right? Because evolution has very large time scales and technology has very much shorter time scales. So, you know, smartphones have overtook us in the span of a generation, and we're not prepared for it, so we're falling into all of these evolutionary traps, specifically because tech designers have designed social media to back our attention and whatnot. So just trying to bring this to your conscious awareness that, you know, scrolling is basically useless. It's a very passive form of learning. It's not really useful at all. Maybe there's some silver linings. If you want, I'll try to do a video on silver linings of doom scrolling, but I don't think it's going to be a very long video.